one. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hollywood Lot Life, where we explore the ins and outs of the elusive entertainment industry. If you've ever dreamed of working in Hollywood or making it as a studio executive, then this is the podcast for you. This show is brought to you both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So, where you ever may be listening from, thank you for tuning in. And, just take the second right now. It's free, no pressure, but just subscribe and like this episode, especially for Spencer. He needs it. And my good friend Spencer is you know, our guest on the show today. Thank you, Spencer, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. And yes, please, I do need it. So thank you. Thank you for that plug.
We want this to be the most liked episode for sure.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it will be.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So, Spencer, tell me what your current title is and, what is the last show you've worked on?
My current title is Key Assistant Location Manager. And the last project I worked on, it's called The Rookie. It's like a TV show about police officers in LA. We just finished season 5, so
Oh, oh wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw a TikTok on how they film driving the cop cars or whatever and how cool that
Oh,
is.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of driving scenes. They're kind of annoying
Mm.
to coordinate, but it is always fun to watch them set it up. They have like the cop car, and then on top of the car, they have like a caged little like seating spot where the guy is actually controlling the car on the top in like a little cage. And so he's steering the car and driving it up there, and then they just have cameras mounted on the front, and they're filming the conversation inside.
Gone are the days of a green screen and it's now practical effects of, we're driving down the road.
Yes, yes, which is better than, any CGI green screen driving for sure.
Uh-huh, exactly, exactly. Well, I have a fun fact for you. Let's see if you know about your own, industry
Ooh,
on location managers in Hollywood.
ooh,
So,
testing me, okay.
here we go. The role of a location manager in Hollywood is an essential part of film and television production. They are responsible for finding and securing suitable shooting locations for film and TV projects, coordinating logistics, managing permits, and ensuring that the creative vision of the production team is met. Location managers have evolved with changing landscape of filmmaking and have made significant contributions to the creative and logistical aspects of many iconic productions. They play a key role in bringing the visual aesthetic and storytelling of a film or TV show to life. Do you feel like that fits you pretty well?
Yeah, that's like really well put. That's like a very like it makes my job sound way more interesting and important.
Like you are essential to
Exactly.
bringing the creativity to life.
Essential. I'm very creative job, everybody.
Exactly, exactly. So, are you originally from LA? Are you a transplant? How did you end up here?
I am a transplant. I'm from Utah originally, and moved out here to LA in 2016. So, what was that, like
And what, 6 years
6 years?
ago?
Yeah,
7 years ago?
7, whatever. Yeah. What is time?
Was it to, make it big on your Hollywood dream as an actor and, producer, director like everybody else? Or what, like, what was the reason that brought you here?
I've always wanted to work in film ever since I was a little kid. Like, um, I've always wanted to. I think originally I wanted to be a director. I would get like my siblings and my like parents' camcorder, and we would recreate skits from The Amanda Show and all that. It would be like almost like word for word, just the skit, and it was so fun. We just kind of like pulled those up and were rewatching, and I was very like tyrant director to my 3-year-old siblings. Yeah, like get it together. They're like 2 years old, and I've like always been interested in film and TV, and I that's always been my dream. And then I kind of like growing up, especially like in Utah, far away from the industry. I was like, everyone wants to work in entertainment industry. They want to be directors, actors, whatever. So the chances of that happening are pretty low. So I was studying in school accounting because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And I was like okay at my accounting classes, and I was like, well, that's a steady job. Everyone needs like accountants, I guess. And oh my gosh, what a mistake. Like I hated it so much. I was just like, if this is the rest of my life, I am gonna throw myself off the roof of my house. Like, and no shame to accountants out there. God bless you. We need you. You're important. We see you, but not for me. Um, so my uncle actually works in the film industry. He's a location manager in Utah, and um, he opened up a business in LA that kind of caters to productions. And he said, if you're really interested in it, I can see if I can get you an interview. And he did. He got me an interview, and then I got the job. I came out here. So
Wow.
yeah.
So you went from like the most boring thing to the most exciting thing.
Yes, yes. And again, no hate to accountants.
No hate, no
I
hate.
respect
We
you so
love,
much.
I know so many accountants.
Yes,
They're all great people.
they are. They are. I would not
But
be
just,
one.
yeah, no, even, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But so what was like your first gig here in LA? Like what did you do? What was the title? What was the show?
Okay, so I got here and I was interviewing for assistant location manager on the TV show Fresh Off the Boat. It's like an ABC half-hour
Classic.
sitcom. Yeah, it's really fun, set in the 90s. Um, and that was we were filming at the Fox lot. And so I interviewed there. And the way it works is you have to, when you're working on a show, especially like one that's a network show or like on streaming services, they're usually all union. And so I had to work my way into the union so I could actually be employed on the show full time. And the way you do that as a location manager, each kind of like job has their own requirements for how to get into the union. But for me, I had to work 30 days within a year on a union show. And um, it's interesting on network shows that are like sitcom like that, they kind of have just like a budget that they have for every show that's kind of the same. It's just like a template budget. And so they didn't really have a space for me to be full time, but it was busy enough and my boss liked me enough to try and like squeeze me in wherever they could. So it took me about 6 months to get my 30 days to working on that
Holy
show.
cow.
Yeah. So every once in a while, like when I was not working on that show, the other days I was working with at my uncle's like warehouse, and I was like cleaning mats, which like his business is called Loco Mats, and they have just like floor mats that they use to protect the location that we're filming on TV shows. So every time we film in a house
Mm-hmm.
or a business, we go in and to protect the floors from camera equipment or from people, just scratching the floors or whatever. We'll put down mats, bubble wrap, and things. So my job was to like deliver mats to set and then like clean them and roll them up. And I did that for a little over 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a product that I never think of, but I'm sure it does pretty well in the industry, no?
Yeah, it's like pretty required on every set. If you go on, you'll see like just the whole set is basically covered, except for what's in camera. Whatever's in camera, they clear all the protective equipment away, and then right when they say
Yep.
cut, it just comes right back down. So it like saves,
That's
the
crazy.
studio from liability of having to like redo the floors or whatever of whatever location they're on. So,
So they don't have to pay out
yep.
all the damages that they just did.
Yeah, exactly.
So would you say having a union or being part of a union for at least working in locations is a requirement, or is it like you're like, well, you could do it without it, or it's like, no, you have to find your way into a union if you want a job?
It, I guess it depends. If you, there are some jobs that are non-union that are, um, like maybe like some commercials or like music videos. A lot of music videos are non-union, things like that. But any kind of big TV show, any feature film is usually union. So if you want to work with
Hmm.
the big studios, you have to be in the union.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So you made the union.
Hmm.
You're working on Fresh Off the Boat. Does the like continue the story? Where do we go from here?
So once I got my um, like 30 days of working, I was able to join the union, and I was assistant location manager. And the union that we're in is the Teamsters. So we're like with all the truck drivers. It's a really weird
Nice.
union. It's truck drivers, location managers, it's like animal handlers, casting directors. It's just like kind of a mismatch
The
of people.
miscellaneous.
Yeah, it's like we'll take whoever didn't get picked for the other ones and we'll make our own club. And so we are, so that's our union. And I got in after those 30 days, and they were able to get me on 4 days a week on that show. They were able to kind of mess with the budget to get me on. And the fifth day of the week, I actually helped out the accounting department, just like with filing and things like that. So they really like did me a favor by finding work for me. It was really nice. But yeah, it was great. Basically, my job as assistant location manager was I was the closer, is what they call it, which is the key assistant location manager, like one of my other coworkers, opens up the set. So location managers are usually the first and the last people on set. We're there to make sure that everything is unlocked and open, that the streets are clear for all the trucks to come and park, and the locations are opened and ready to go, and we are in charge of, it's kind of like event planning. We're in charge of ordering like restrooms and dumpsters, and we find catering spaces, and we find parking, and we find, um, we make deals with neighbors and businesses around to pay them, um, all these things. So we're the first ones there to make sure everything is like ready to go, and then we're the last ones there to lock up and make sure that everything is like returned back to normal.
If they have any grief or whatever, they go to you to complain.
Yes. Yeah, locations is also like the customer service of filming, which is the part that I don't like. So it's a lot of hearing people complain about how annoying it is that we've blocked the road, or, like parking in front of their house, things like that. And usually we'll pay them some money as an inconvenience fee. Um, and then they're fine. But yeah, it can be annoying.
Hmm. So if I'm watching, Fresh Off the Boat, and it's like, how often are you guys out on scout or out on location versus in a studio soundstage recording?
Um, yeah, that's a good one. So, um, sitcoms usually tend to be, especially like half-hour ones. They have a shooting schedule of 5 days a week, and um, in those 5 days of filming, I would say three are on stage and like two are on location. So, but another show, like I was on, like on The Rookie and on like This Is Us, we were out on location way more. Those are an hour-long shows, so those are 8 days of filming for an episode, and we were
Oh wow.
probably out like 5 or 6 days out of the 8 on location.
Oh, that's very often.
Yeah, yeah. So all depends on the show.
Hmm. So you went to Fresh Off the Boat, and then do you jump different shows, or how do you make your way around to these different shows?
Yeah, so I was on Fresh Off the Boat, and then we all kind of thought the show was going to get canceled. And so we all kind of started looking for other jobs. Then come to find out, it came back for like one more season. But I had made contact with another manager um, who was working on This Is Us, and he asked if I was available, and I said, yeah, I'm available, and so he hired me full time on This Is Us, And I did that for 3 seasons. But it's all networking is basically how it works. Each union has like their call sheet, so if you're available to work, you have to like go on the list and say you're available or you're busy, and then managers have to look at that list and hire off of that list. But they also need to like know who you are to see if it's worth even calling you or if they want to work with you. So
Interesting. That's really fascinating. So it's just like, have you been on any other shows besides Fresh Off the Boat, This Is Us, and The Rookie?
yeah, so I worked on Fresh Off the Boat was the first one, and then I did This Is Us for 3 years, and then in between, I would work on like while each show was like taking a summer break, I did like this HBO show called Camping. It wasn't that
Mm-hmm.
great, but it was fun to work on. Um, I also did reshoots of Mindhunters, that Netflix show. Um, I did another show on Amazon called Hunters, which is like they're Nazi hunters. Um, and
Nazi
then
Hunters?
yeah, it's like in the 70s, and they are like hunting down Nazis, and it's Al Pacino, Logan Lerman. Um, it was like it was a fun show to work on, but I think they just had 2 seasons is all.
Didn't
Um,
last very long.
yeah, it didn't last long.
So it sounds like you've got to be really flexible with how you're going about your selection of shows and being nimble and not thinking like, "Oh, I'm going to be on this show for the next 15 years." It's like
Mhm.
the next 6 months.
Yeah, that's one thing about this industry that is it takes getting used to just how nothing is like set in stone. No job is like um is promised for a long time. You are so used to just kind of like finding a show, and then you have to be kind of okay with the fact that you might not work for a couple months until you find something else. Um, and so you have to save money. You also just have to keep networking to like meet people and make sure that you have enough contacts if things start to like dry up. And yeah, you just never know when the next gig is going to be. So you're always kind of like looking for something just in case, your show gets canceled or whatever.
That's crazy. Does that like freak you out, or is it something like you're like, "Oh, I'm here for all that"?
Um, it definitely was not something that I liked at the beginning. I had to get used to it. And now I'm kind of like, it's just the job at this point. And I've worked with enough people that I'm not too worried about um, not having any contacts or people to reach out to, thankfully. Um, but yeah, it's definitely an aspect that I don't love about it.
Also, working in the middle of the night.
Yeah, yeah. Hours are crazy. It's you never know. You can never really plan your life when you're on a show. It's like sometimes my call time is 3 a.m. for landing like base camp and making sure that, all the trailers can get set up because actors have early hair and makeup calls to be on set by 7 a.m. And other times you're there till, 4 a.m. coming on the other
Oh,
side where you're like been working all through the night and the evening. And
brutal.
it's crazy. So
So this makes me think like when you're on set, are you seeing some of these talent or celebrities and like do you get starstruck or is it, not very A-list celebrities that you've worked around, so it's just like whatever.
yeah, I've worked with a couple, I guess, like A-list celebrities. I don't get as starstruck as I thought I would be, which is like good, I guess. The only times I've been starstruck is when it's like actors or people that I was fans of as like a kid. Like
Uh-huh.
I saw Raven Simone on The Lot
Oh,
one time
nice.
and like Topanga and it was like those were two where I was just like, oh my gosh. And Right now I'm at Paramount, and How I Met Your Father
Hmm.
shoots there, and so Hilary Duff is
Ah,
like around
Hillary
there.
Duff.
So that's like one person I'm like trying to run into. But
You're like, oh, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you like that.
yeah, yeah. And This Is Us, like Mandy Moore, like I grew up, like I knew her music and I'd seen her in like movies and stuff before. So that was like kind of cool. Um, but for the most part, other than that, it's they're you like when you see them, you're like, oh my gosh, they're just people. They're just like working people.
At the end of the day, that's all they are.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
We hype them up. So I guess what does like a day to day look like? You talk about all the different things. Like, are you so you show up to a set and you're like, oh, the bathrooms haven't showed up or whatever. Like, walk me through what your like day to day looks like while the set is running.
Yeah, okay. So the one thing that I really like about locations is that Um, I have a lot of variety of what like my working days are. So some days I'm like in the office and I'm doing paperwork. I'm like doing permits for our, upcoming location, and I'm ordering like vendors and talking with neighbors and, doing contracts. Other days I'm driving around scouting and looking for locations. And then other days I'm on set. And so I like it because I'm not tied to like set all the time. I always
Hmm.
thought working on set every day would be like the best,
The
but
dream.
yeah,
Hmm.
but after working on set, like it's still really fun and it's exciting. There's like such a great energy usually there because you're like making something and it's very creative. But the hours are grueling. It's usually 12 plus hour days. And so I like that I have like a variety of what I'm doing. I would say my typical on-set day is usually I get there like 2 or 3 hours before call time. So if crew call is 7 a.m., which means like that's when everyone shows up to set and we start filming. Um, I'm usually there 3 to 4 hours before that, and I'm making sure that like the base camp where we have all the actors trailers and things like that are is like good to go. There's no problems. And then um, I go and open up the location and I land like the bathrooms and I make sure our security guards are all set up and know what they're doing and where they're supposed to be. Um, and then we also are in charge of like ordering police officers for our shoot days. So if we have like we're closing off a street to film on, um, we order police officers, we order barricades and things like that. And so we just make sure that everyone shows up and they know what they're doing, and um, and then just wait for everyone to land. Like the busiest parts of my day is the beginning or the end, and then while they're filming, um, just kind of sitting around watching it all go on. And if they have any questions, like, hey, locations, there's like an alarm going off in the house. Can you go in and like turn it off or something like that? Is kind of
Hmm.
the questions that we get. So a lot of it is you're doing a lot of work beforehand to make sure everything is set up and good to go. And then when they're filming, you're just kind of like kicking back and making sure everything goes smoothly. And then,
That's when you can breathe after,
yeah,
making all the hectic.
yes,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. So,
So one thing I wanted to ask you about is the scouting side. So do you work with like the producers or the directors on getting their creative vision and being like, this is the kind of house we're looking for, or this is the kind of park we're looking for, go out and find it, or how does that process work?
yeah, so a lot of times it's the director and the production designer. And what will happen is we'll get a script a couple weeks before an episode if we're lucky. Sometimes it's like on this show, it's days before we start shooting, and
Crazy.
so we're scrambling. But we'll get the script and we kind of go through and look at all the locations, and we're like, okay, so we need a mall with like a fountain, because there's a scene where the actor falls into a fountain or something like that. Or we need a house and this is a flashback scene set in the 90s, so we have to have something and it's set in the Midwest. So we have to find a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of palm trees and it's like an older house. And then we'll talk with the production designer to make sure, because they're the ones that have like the vision for how the show looks. And so we'll talk with them and be like, okay, so what kind of house style are you thinking of? Are you thinking of a craftsman style home or a um, like Spanish style home or something like that? And they kind of give us ideas, and then we go out and look for things. And we'll take usually just a director scout at the beginning with the director and production designer, maybe a producer, and when they pick the location, then we do a scout with all the department heads so everyone kind of knows where we're going and what we need, like lighting wise and things like that. And then we just move from there.
Wow, that is that sounds very stressful.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
like a book or directory of like 1920 homes in LA that would be perfect for filming?
No. So, um, one of the cool things about LA is that it does have a lot of neighborhoods that do have like a specific style to them. So, if you're looking for like a craftsman style house or something like that, like there's a neighborhood called West Adams, um, in LA, which has like a lot of homes like that. There's also like Angelino Heights, which is a lot of Victorian homes, and um, also we work with there are some agencies. They're called like location agencies, and basically if you're a homeowner or a business and you're interested in having filming at your house, you can call up these location agencies. They'll have someone come take photos of your house, and then they'll put it up on like a website. And so if we are like in a pinch and we need something, then we can go on these like websites and be like, okay, we need like just a small house or whatever that is film friendly, and we don't have to like, knock doors and try and make contact with the person because we have like 2 days to set this up. So we know like this person is like okay with filming, and we know what their house looks like, and so we can make contact quicker. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
What a fun job.
Yeah, it's a great way to see like the city and go to neighborhoods and places you normally wouldn't go to and meet a lot of interesting people. So
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I'm sure you know LA like the back of your hand now.
yeah, it's fun. Like I do a lot of driving for my work, and um, it's fun driving around with people. I sometimes forget just like how a lot of people just drive to work in their house and then like maybe some of their restaurants or whatever, but they're not driving all through different weird parts of town. And um, yeah, um, I feel like I know the city pretty well.
So like what would you say so like the highs of working in the industry? Like some of the best parts that you enjoy that like you wake up and that's your favorite part of working in the industry?
Okay. Um, I think my favorite part is I love whenever I get to go to like a new movie studio, like a lot is
Mm-hmm.
so fun because the history there, it's like you can just like feel like a kind of energy and like a cool like historic like energy and vibe on a lot of movie lots that are really fun. And I love being able to work on a set that is um everyone like the crew is really it's kind of like a family because a lot of times these people are spending 12 hours a day with each other, like more time together than with their families. And so it
Wow.
can be like a really kind of tight knit like group and feeling, which is really kind of fun. And we're just like doing play pretend all day. We're just like making movies and it's like not serious. It's just like we're here to, do some stunts and record some jokes and make people laugh or, things like that, and it's really fun.
Bring some entertainment to those who are just sitting on the couch at night and watching TV.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So all those sound really fun, and I'm already jealous of what you do for your job. But like, give me the like struggles of where you're like, oh, I hate this. This I want to quit. I want to go back to being an accountant.
Man, okay. So the a lot of times it is the like unknown and the hours. The hours really do
Hmm.
get to you after a while. Like, so the show that I just worked on, we filmed for a little over 9 months, and there's like no time off. We get like a week and a half off around the holidays, but that's it. And so you can't like really go on vacation during that time. You can't like plan really much. Like sometimes you will have to work on weekends and you won't know until maybe like a day or two before. And so it's hard to really plan a whole
Oh,
lot of things. Um, so that's the biggest downside for me, where the work-life balance can be rough. Um, and then with my job specifically, like I said, it is kind of like the customer service of filming. So a lot of times it's getting yelled at by neighbors who are tired of filming or things like that, and you just, have to be like, okay, I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is really
we're almost
annoying.
done.
Yeah, I get it. Please, here's some money. So
They're just walking outside for the money.
yeah. Oh, and a lot of people do. They know that they can make a quick, easy couple $100. So, which is also annoying.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like your job was impacted all with COVID and all the lockdowns and everything? Like, did you have to, you know, not work for a year and a half, or how did that work out for you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I remember we were working on a pilot, March 2020, and we were just watching like everything kind of get canceled on us, and we were the last show, especially like on the lot we were working to stop working, and we were out of work for it was from March until end of August, and when we came back, it was stressful because a lot of the union heads had met together of all the different unions in the industry, and they had come up with like a return to work agreement is what it was called, and it was how to work. They like met with the studios, and they came up with this like agreement of different protocols and things of how to film and work in COVID times. And at the beginning in, September 2020 when everything started to come back, that was pre-vaccines and all these things. It was still a lot of unknowns about COVID. And
Yep.
so we were doing really kind of crazy protocols that made our job really tough. Like I remember we were scouting for locations on this one show. It was Made for Love. It was an HBO Max show, and
Hmm.
I just worked on like the first couple episodes just scouting, and we would go to like these random bars, and we had to make sure that no one else was there, like the public couldn't be there, and then we would go in like one at a time as crew members and like take a look around. We would get our measurements,
Oh my
and
gosh.
they would I remember the producers asked us like, can you have one of our bathroom vendors just drive around behind us with a porta potty throughout the day, so if someone needs to go to the bathroom, like they can. And just like things like that where we were like, okay. Like um it just made everything kind of take longer to do and figure out and things like that. And once like we started working more with the new protocols, like we get tested 3 times a week. We would take COVID tests, and the crew was set up into 3 different zones, and so people who like work with the talent and like camera department, hair and makeup, um, the PAs who are the production assistants,
Yep.
they were zone A, and then people like me, location managers, grip department, electricians, construction, drivers. A lot of them were Zone B. So we were kind of separated as crews, and we didn't all like get to interact with each other as much, which was kind of a bummer. Um, that was kind of that definitely changed how we worked.
A totally different time.
Yeah, yeah. So
And do you feel like it's all gone back to normal pre-COVID with recording and filming and everything?
it's I feel like a lot of these kind of protocols and things that we introduced, um, I think a couple things will always stay. Um, and it's also hard to say because our show, we have producers that are pretty like strict with COVID still. Um, I know a lot of shows have definitely eased up and they don't test as much. They don't have the different zones anymore. But our show still does, and we test really like pretty regularly. And um, like we still mask when we're indoors in sets.
Hmm.
We finally got the okay that we don't have to wear masks outside, like earlier this year. And I think
Really?
most shows, yeah, like when I was working on This Is Us last year, we had already done no masks outside. Um, so it also just kind of depends on the producer and what rules they decide to like keep and implement from the COVID protocols.
Fascinating. I didn't even know. I would have totally guessed that they would have moved on from all the COVID
I
protocols once
know.
they kind of got dropped.
It's funny because everywhere else in the city there's no really COVID protocols anymore.
Mm-mm.
The only place where I would have to wear a mask is at work, and
Interesting.
yeah. So we'll see when we come
Hmm.
back, but who knows?
That's really cool. Okay, so now we'll move on to our next section a little bit. And so, do you have like maybe you hinted at this earlier, but like a mentor or a role model that you can go to be like, hey, I'm trying to do this or I want to get to this point. How do I get there? Can you help me with this? Like, do you have somebody like that?
Yeah, so I feel like my uncle Dave is one. He's the one that got me into the industry, and he's he's a location manager in Utah.
Hmm.
He's one that I've always like looked up to as, it's like, oh my gosh, he works on movies. That's so cool. And um, he knows a lot of people, at least like location manager wise and things like that. So I can like go to him for any questions or things. Also, my first boss, who got me into the union, on Fresh Off the Boat, um, she's also a great mentor. She was so patient with me, like teaching me, and um, will like check in every once in a while. And she's really great, and she's very kind and always making sure that like I'm good, and giving me ideas of like, oh well, if it's slow, like you should do this, or things like that. So she's been great.
That's awesome. Would you say so? When you started with her, working with her, you had some ideas, or like back when you were a young director with your young siblings making these great flashback films, did you have any like ideas of what Hollywood and how you would be working in it would be like? And then you got into it and there's like, oh, this is totally a misconception about what Hollywood is and how they do it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I I definitely feel like when you're outside of it, when you're not in the industry and like you're aspiring to work in it, and you have like big dreams, it's very like romantic. It's very like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is my dream. Work on movies. It's so glamorous. It's Hollywood. And then when you're like actually on set, or when you're in the industry, you realize it's just a business. Like it isn't completely driven by creative ideas or um, art. It's like it's a business. It's like, well, will this make money? Will this um, what is something that will get people into the theaters or watching on my streaming service,
Yeah.
rather than like this is a really like important piece of art that we want to create or whatever. Um, so yeah,
Can
that's
we make
that's
it
one kind
to?
of thing.
I was going to say, can we make it to syndication?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's all about money. So
Uh huh. I totally believe that. I 100% believe that because it's like, I would say even like the films nowadays are only made to make money. It's not about telling a good story. It's about how much money I can make off of a box office.
yeah, yeah, and like, well, these characters, can we make, toys about them, or like,
Mm-hmm.
things like that,
Mm-hmm.
merchandise and IP and roller coaster rides and things like that. Like, will these sell and become like a bigger thing? And so, yeah, I feel like nowadays, especially, it's really easy to look at and just be like, everything's a sequel, everything is in a universe, you know, everything is IP driven. So it's very apparent now, I feel like.
That's, so true. Um, so one question I had was like, do you have any like for everybody who's watching right now, they're like, you've had me sold on being a location manager. I'm, packing my bags here in Iowa and I'm moving to LA to become a location manager. Do you have like any advice for these people that are like, I'm no longer wanting to be Adam Driver. I want to be Spencer Higgs. Like, give them some
Oh
advice.
man, don't. No. um, um, I would say it's all about like connections. It really is. Connections are so important. Um, this industry really is all about who you know, which is kind of annoying and can be hard to like break into. But even if like you do like a film class or something, a lot of times they're taught by people who have worked in the industry in some capacity, and they can give you a connection somehow. And um, it's using those connections to, you know, come out to LA and um, then just like put your, nose to the grind and just like go for it. And you I would always have like a backup plan when you're here of like working another job, whether it's waiting tables or something, while you like get your
Smart.
days or whatever. Yeah, but it's um it's all about, yeah, connections, who you know, and knowing that it takes time to break in. And so have some money saved up and um find another little side job or something and just be patient. It takes time.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. I remember when I started out interning, I started doing valet on the side. I worked 3 days a week as an internship and then 4 days a week valeting cars, and 7 days a week I was working.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's all about like, you meet people from the industry or whatever in the most random places. So if you're like a hard worker, if you're friendly, you never know who you'll meet and, maybe like what opportunities, could come out of that. So
So one kind of last question I have for you is five years from now, are you still doing locations? Are you, trying to break into a different area in production, or have you kind of found your niche where you want to be long term?
yeah, so yeah, this is like a thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately. One thing I love about locations, like I said, is that there is a lot of variety. I'm not tied to set all the time. Um, I really like that, and but it isn't as creative as I'd like it to be. Unless you're like
Hmm.
scouting full time and things like that, then it's a lot of like logistics and things like that, which um, can be good. Exercises a whole different side of your brain that is important. Um,
Yep.
but I think production design, art director would be also kind of fun. Um, Eventually, though, my goal is producer. Um, so
Ooh.
I feel like locations is a great way to kind of break into that because you are usually locations has the second biggest budget on a show, sometimes the biggest budget. We have to work with all the departments and coordinate with them of like what they need on set and things like that. So we're we kind of get a big overview of everyone's job in a way, and we are working, with budgets, contracts, and things, and um, so I feel like it's kind of like producing on just like a smaller scale. Um, so then hopefully my next step would be like location manager, and then hopefully after that producer. But again, it's all like who you know, and if someone wants to like pull me up as a producer or whatever. So nothing is
We're
promised.
gonna we're gonna look back on this 20 years and laugh, be like, wow, remember the famous Spencer Higgs when he talked about where he was gonna go, and now he's a big time Hollywood producer.
God, well, I hope so.
Yeah, exactly. The last thought I have is I recently went and saw John Wick Chapter 4. Have you seen any of the John Wicks?
Okay, I just saw the first one for the first time like a couple weeks ago. So I haven't seen the other ones yet, but I did watch that one recently.
Okay, well, I just watched the most recent one. No spoilers, but I was just like thinking of your job, and I'm like, man,
Mhm.
they are going all over the world for this. Like, this must be the most expensive shoot to go from Japan to New York to Berlin to Paris. And I'm like, holy cow, they
Mhm.
must be spending cash like crazy.
Yes. Like I love that's one thing that I love about like now it's like just big budget movies are the ones that actually go on location to other parts of the world. It's
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of Netflix movies that have come out recently, and maybe it's like a COVID thing, but it's all like green screen CGI of they're in
Mm,
like a city in Europe or something, and you can tell, and it just doesn't feel real. It feels cheap, and so when you're like filming on location, it just like I don't know, it feels more magical. It feels like um, bigger and things like that. So I always like when a movie does that, but it is a lot of money, a lot of coordinating, a lot of planning. Um, yeah, it's a lot of work
how
for
many
sure.
locations people would be on that kind of a movie if you've got four international cities that you're going to for one production?
So usually they have like a supervising location manager, and then for each city or country that they're filming in, they'll have a location manager and then their team of assistants, um, which could be, like up to like, 4 to 10 people or whatever, depending on how big the shoot is. Um, but like the supervising location manager is the one that is like in charge of everybody. They're talking with the producer, the director, and just kind of like letting everybody know this is, what we're looking for, this is what we're doing. Um, and then each person in each country can kind of specialize since they know the language, since they know the city, they know how permits work in each country or city that they're in.
Wow.
Otherwise, it would take so long for one person to have to learn all those things and you know, figure out where in the city they could find a bar or something, and they've never been there, things like that.
Hmm. Some
So,
random back alley in Morocco.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Spencer, for your time. We really appreciate you being on the show. I've had so much fun just chit chatting and talking to you and getting really jealous of all the fun stuff you get to do on a day to day.
I'm glad I made it seem like my job is really fun and exciting.
Yeah, no, you did a great job. I'm like, I got into the wrong industry.
It makes me be like, wow, okay, my job can be fun sometimes.
Yeah, I actually do enjoy my job, I guess.
Yeah, it's work, but it's still fun. So,
Exactly. Well, for those at home listening, thank you so much for taking the time. If you could please subscribe to my show, I would really appreciate it. It is free. I'm not asking for any money or anything, no ads. It's all free. So just easy. Just hit the button, hit the like for Spencer. He needs it. And
do.
then, you know, we'll see you in the next episode. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.